In a town down south where the fireflies glow, there's a man named Michael with a vision to show. Really told to go, he's got the spark, dreaming of a future that'll light up the dark. But on the other side, still lies on the rise, because that old chart sees cut down all the lies. And it just fits, it's all in the map. You can't pull from the ether, you're just chasing a path. But oh, Michael's rising like a morning sun. With the power of ether, he will be outdone. Now stand up and shout, let the truth be affirmed. Feel the energy flow, let's change the world. In the heart of a life, the tension was thick. Skeptics gathered round the table, ready to pick. Show proof, and let the taste clear. And I find the stream, you're just chasing a spin. But Michael's style by, with fire in his eyes. Just watch as I spin, let the naysayers cry. Girl spinning fast, and a heart full of fight. I'll show you the power that's hidden inside. Oh, Michael's rising like the morning sun. With the power of ether, he will be outdone. Well, stand up and shout, let the truth be affirmed. Feel the energy flow, let's change the world. I'm the best there's ever been.
In a lab, Mike does cracks the code tonight. Oh yeah, that's true. Wires and circuits to shine in neon lights. Oh yeah, seen you creating power from the air. These smiles and delights. Oh yeah. Mike does it right. Mike does all Mike is the one teaching us knowledge, lighting the sun, trumpeting his legacy alive. His hands. Mike does knows we're his biggest fans. Down in the basement, secrets start to glow. Oh yeah. With Nathan, Lulu, and the show. Oh, brilliant team. Mike came on Faraday. We're letting knowledge flow. Oh yeah. Energy streams. Mike does all Mike is the one teaching us knowledge, lighting the sun, trumpeting his legacy alive. His hands. Mike does knows we're his biggest fans. Years of thought, bringing dreams to life, turning theories into electric light. Mike and us, a journey to ignite. We've reached new heights. Mike does all Mike is the one teaching us knowledge, lighting the sun, trumpeting his legacy alive. His hands. Mike does knows we're his biggest fans.
with dreams ignite. Lulu's mind is taking flight. Bouncing equations, there's a plan she designs. Unlocking secrets where the cosmos aligns. I say let's reach the stars with knowledge as our guide. In this universe we're tracing, our destinies collide. Knowledge, wisdom, a peek in the dark. Juggling studies and life igniting the spark. Every calculation, every moment's so grand. She's building the future with her guiding hand. Every shift she's closer to the night. Family won't she find strength to find. I say let's reach the stars with knowledge as our guide. In this universe we're tracing, our destinies collide. Through every challenge she won't lose sight. Her passion shines, a star in the night. With every step she's paving the way. In the dance of science she'll always stay. I say let's reach the stars with knowledge as our guide. In this universe we're tracing, our destinies collide.
In a basement lab alone with my mind. Stable theories they all refuse to find. I've been working on energy for a brand new day. But even in the crowd I'm still a castaway. Alienated from the aims of added nature in disguise. Ideas ahead of time dismissed with narrow eyes. Benefactor boy, dreaming about the world you can't deploy. Changing the system, but treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his boy. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice? Talk to love 0 point, the points lost on them. Capital structures crumbling from the same old sim. They laugh like I'm crazy, but I see it all so clear. Exploited labor, unheard injustice, burning ears. Fighting for a change in this wasteland of noise. But they call me foolish when I teach them claws. Benefactor boy, dreaming about the world you can't deploy. Changing the system, but treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his boy. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice? Chasing revolutions in the darkest nights. A dreamer with vision beneath the laughter and noise. A future so bright waiting for the right choice. Benefactor boy, dreaming about the world he can't deploy. Changing the system, but treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his boy. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice?
Alright, welcome back to the Benefactor's Guide to Free Energy Devices. I'm your host, the Benefactor, and today we're going to be continuing the electric universe theory and how it all fits in with gravity. Specifically, we'll be taking a look at a video by Action Labs, as a perfect visual analogy of how this theory actually works by using ferrofluid with a superconductor. So that's fun. So this Action Labs demonstration is visually striking. Before we get kicked off with that, if you haven't hit the like button, please do so. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And for those of you who are curious, this isn't the only thing we're going to be talking about. We're actually going to be doing a mini lab today and testing the wattman reduction on a 12-volt battery, trying to yet again get a confirmation of maybe partially closing the or partially preserving the dipole, or even closing the loop. We'll see. So we do have a fully charged 12-volt battery, more fully charged than it was when we ran the initial test that got such amazing results. But first, we're going to go into kind of continuing this discussion from yesterday about gravity and how it kind of can play out as an electromagnetic effect. So when I viewed this Action Labs demonstration, it was visually striking. I'm going to put it up on here. I'm going to mute the sound, but I'll play it. So, you know, the ferrofluid spikes, it dances, it reorganizes when suspended over the superconducting surface, you know, in the presence of the magnetic field. Even though it is not a gravity experiment, it really does illustrate several mechanisms that are extremely useful when thinking about and visualizing the aether-based or electromagnetic-based gravity models. So specifically, it visually demonstrates field-dominated environments. A superconductor excludes magnetic fields, forcing magnetic flux to reorganize around it. When ferrofluid is placed above the superconductor, the fluid moves according to magnetic pressure gradients, field strength variations, flux pinning locations, energy, minimizing geometries in the surrounding field. This produces a visually dynamic landscape where matter follows an invisible topology of the field, and you can kind of visually get a grasp how that plays out. So the relevance here is if gravity is an expression of just field pressure differentials or gradients in the aether, then matter responding to field topology is exactly the type of behavior such a model predicts. Matter moves toward lower energy configurations in the field. The ferrofluid is doing this visually. You can see it. Mass, according to the electromagnetic gravity models, may be doing this invisibly in a similar fashion. So let's talk about the pressure gradients. I'm going to skip this ad. It's really hard to see this cursor. There it is. All right, so let's talk about the ferrofluid spike patterns and specifically how they relate to pressure gradients in the aether. Now, ferrofluid spikes form when magnetic field density is highest, right? They form where the magnetic field density is highest. These spikes are the ferrofluid responding to increased field pressure, directional flux organization, local minima and maxima field potentials. So this is a beautiful analogy for the way gravity in the electromagnetic pressure gradient model channels matter towards areas of lower field pressure. In other words, ferrofluid moves according to and along magnetic pressure gradients in the aether. Mass moves along these etheric pressure gradients. Different forces yet, but the patterns of behavior are the same. This is why the video feels like a gravity analogy or a gravity video. It's not actually gravity, but it's demonstrating the exact type of mechanism in a pressure-driven motion model, where electromagnetic gravity claims claims governance over mass. So it can give you an idea of how field topology can influence mass visually when you try to think about this for a minute, but it's a little different. It's not an exactly a polarized field. It's more of a, it acts more of a monopole gravity. So when the superconductor locks magnetic flux lines, which we call flux pinning, it creates highly structured pockets where the field lines refuse to cross or collapse. The ferrofluid's motion is dictated by these structures. So the reason why this matters is in an electromagnetic gravity model, those models assert that mass creates structured distortions in the etheric field. These distortions create pressure gradients, gravity wells or pressure wells, channels, and pressure differentials. Remember, in these models, we're not thinking of the vacuum, which has no physical properties. It's not rigid. Therefore, we should not be thinking about it in a way that it's bending, right? A rigid structure cannot bend. Or if it doesn't have a rigid structure, it cannot bend, right? And the vacuum by its very nature is described mathematically as having no physical properties. So if it has no physical properties, how is it actually bending? Well, that's the misconception, in my opinion. I think we have to think about it more as displacement. Because, again, we're not thinking about a rigid structure, but more of a superfluid that is the etheric volume of empty space around us. So these videos demonstrate how a field can dictate the behavior of matter without mechanical contact. In classical gravity, we're taught, no contact, but it still attracts, right? It's some kind of invisible interaction going on, an action at a distance, or curvature depending on your theory. The ferrofluid on superconductor system demonstrates how fields create order from chaos. They also demonstrate how particles move in a line without being touched. They demonstrate how material bodies can settle into stable orbits or positions based solely on field geometry. So this all supports the electromagnetic gravity paradigm because it shows matter obeys a field topology, and gravity could simply be another field topology in that system. So you could say ferrofluid is a visible stand-in for how mass behaves in an invisible gravitational etheric field. But it's important for accuracy's sake that this is not a one-to-one analogy, right? We must stay professional and we must stay credible, and in order to do that, we have to make distinct differences. This isn't a perfect analogy, right? The analogies I use are more for visualization, rather than being perfect one-to-one aspects of the systems described. So ferrofluid responds to magnetic fields, right? A superconductor manipulates magnetic flux. Gravity is universally attractive to mass-dependent and is non-polarity, or not polarity-dependent, as you would say, like a magnet would be, right? You don't have the opposing poles attracting. You don't need the north and south pole in order to achieve the attraction mechanism with gravity. So electromagnetism is effector-based and bipolar, whereas gravity is observed as kind of scalar and monopolar in nature. What is scalar? But it's described as kind of monopolar in nature. So these are the distinct differences in this analogy, and it's important to kind of go over them. Because this demonstration is not proof of an electromagnetic universe or a gravity model. It's just an analogy of mechanism, not the mechanism itself. So it's just a visualization tool, not evidence. But it's important. It's important so you can visualize how this is possible. Because the most powerful analogies are the analogies that you can visualize. Something that you can relate to in everyday life. Some kind of mechanism of action that is familiar to you. So here's the cleanest analogy this demonstration can provide for a gravity model. So ferrofluid doesn't move because of contact or because something is pulling on it. It moves because the field around it has structure. Gravity may be doing the same thing, creating invisible structure in an etheric medium, displacement of the medium. And matter simply moves along these invisible pathways it's creating via displacement. Give me 1 second, I'm going to close this tab out. There we go. So some key takeaways from this concept is that invisible forces shape matter, right? Pressure gradients move material bodies to create mass inertia. That's where inertia comes from in this model. Field topology dictates stable positions. Structured fields can create motion and order. Matter can respond dramatically to unseen medium dynamics, specifically in relation to fluid dynamics. So gravity is not polarized like magnets, but it is a monopolar in scalar in nature, meaning it has quantities of magnitude and not direction. So this isn't proof, but it's, you know, just an educational bridge going forward. All right, so that's all I have on the electric universe theory today. For now, we're going to be going into, we're going to be exploring some Tom Bearden. I have a lecture that we're going to be going over and basically comparing Tom's notes in the lecture with our own theories and observations of our system. So this is it was very insightful. Davey Oneness, if you haven't been to his channel, Davey Oneness, I'll put it in the chat. He has a whole archive of all of these like forbidden science lectures from like Lieutenant Colonel Tom Bearden to John Bedini. So has a plethora of archived information for your research if you need help. And this is exactly what this video did for me, is it kind of helped, you know, confirm and give me a little guidance for my system. So it helped me confirm a few important things specifically. So we're going to be exploring hidden EMF paths, right? And this is kind of advancing Tom Bearden and John Bedini's work in developing a system that doesn't destroy the dipole, or not completely. Now, Tom Bearden in this lecture was talking about dual circuit systems, and it's interesting. And I'm gonna just give you a really damning quote that kind of summarizes all the frustration I've been having when gauging the actual efficiency of this system that appears to be operating very efficient. So he writes, and I quote, "Some practical problems with the circuitry are briefly discussed, including internal movement of capacitor plates and dielectric, nonlinear optical functioning of solid-state switching components at extremely low frequencies, and lack of any known instrument to differentiate between displacement current, or d phi over dt, and normal current, which is dq over dt. Now, this is Faraday's law of induction versus Ampere Maxwell's law, which is very interesting. I found that extremely important information. So we're going to take a quick break before we jump into it. And I just want to thank everybody again for tuning in to these podcasts. They really are eye-opening sometimes when we're, you know, trying to make the connections between some of these researchers like Tom Bearden and John Bedini and what actually we're observing going on with these coils and the system we built. So We're going to take a short break. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more revolutionary content.
Have you heard about this Benefactor? This dude is talking about free energy, but here's the twist. He says it's not free energy. He's calling it energy recycling, which first off is kind of genius, right? Because when you say free energy, people immediately throw you in the crazy bin. But energy recycling, that sounds like some next level Tesla shit.
Yeah, man, it's all about the branding. But what is it that he's actually doing?
All right, check this out. He posted this. Free energy isn't actually free. This is a misnomer. It's actually a mutual exchange from the vacuum, a field of energy from which everything arises, the same energy that powers an atom. Like, what? Bro, that's some deep shit. But then he breaks it down. He says you can tap into this energy without breaking any known laws of physics by using something called back EMF capture.
Whoa, back EMF capture? Sounds like some serious sci-fi tech.
Dude, listen to this. He explains that when a coil collapses using a pulsed signal, the energy that would normally just get wasted, like just dissipate as heat, can actually be recycled. He says nature gives you back energy to stabilize the system, which makes sense if you think about how nature works. Like everything in nature is always trying to find balance, right?
So equilibrium, is that like how water always levels out or something? I'm trying to remember what Ms. Murphy said to me in 6th grade science all those years ago. What was that? Oh yeah, Elon, stop eating that glue and pay attention. Man, if only I had listened, I'd probably be the one inventing energy recycling instead of just talking about it.
Exactly. So he's saying that by intentionally destabilizing the system, collapsing the field, you actually get energy back as a kind of natural response. And here's where it gets wild. He compares it to pushing a swing. If you push at the right moment, you don't need to use a lot of energy and the swing gains momentum. But instead of a swing, he's using resonance to harness that extra energy without it becoming destructive. He says most traditional systems are like a surfer fighting against the current, while his method is like riding the wave to shore.
Dude, that's crazy. So he's basically saying the energy is already there. I just suck at using it efficiently?
That's what it sounds like. He's basically saying the way we harness energy now is like trying to swim against the tide. And if we used resonance instead, we'd be tapping into energy that's already there, just waiting to be used. I don't know, man. Either this guy is onto something or he's the most poetic bullshitter of all time.
Well, if he's legit, why isn't he all over the news? I haven't heard anything from him on X, formerly Twitter. He hasn't said anything bad about me on X. So, you know, I didn't ban him or anything. Look, I'm not the monster my therapist says I am. I mean, sure, I've spent millions of dollars training to beat a kangaroo in a fist fight, but that doesn't mean I'm dangerous. It just means I get shit done.
That's the real question, man. But here's the craziest part. I looked into him, and he's not selling anything. He open sources all of it. That's the real question, man. Either the system doesn't want to hear it, or we're about to find out if this guy disappears in the middle of the night.
Dude, that's crazy. He's absolutely crazy. That means if he's telling the truth, anybody could build this in their garage. You know what I say? Go fuck yourself, Benefactor.
Nope, no patents, no paywalls, just straight up, here, take it, see for yourself. Like, what kind of madman does that? Usually people either try to cash in or they get shut down before they can say a word. But this guy, he's out there on live streams showing people exactly how to replicate it.
I mean, if you want to try to take on my Tesla tech, how dare you put out better technology that is cheaper and safer? Go fuck yourself.
That's the thing, man. If it's real and people start building it, that's a game changer. We're talking about completely shifting how we think about energy. But also, if it's real, you got to wonder how long before somebody tries to stop it.
Or maybe we can think of it like how long before his Tesla mysteriously malfunctions.
Exactly. You ever notice how every time someone gets too close to this kind of stuff, they either disappear, get discredited, or somehow have a tragic accident? But this guy's going full transparency mode. He's putting it all out there where everyone can see it. Maybe that's his strategy. If enough people know, it can't just get buried.
Holy shit, this might be one of those moments, you know, like we look back and say that was the start of something huge.
Can't you hear his voice?
In a world where innovation is stifled by greed and corruption, there lies a hidden truth that could revolutionize our way of life.
Lenny, what are you doing? Are you seriously pitching a new show right now? I didn't authorize this. My God, only 5 minutes into your new position as co-host, and you're already adding to my tight schedule.
Yes, sir, I manage that schedule. But I did notice you have an entire 2 days available during your week.
Wait, you're not talking about Saturday and Sunday, are you?
Of course, sir. You have 2 whole days where you're free to work on new content.
Lenny, those are my days off.
It's okay, sir. I know you'll manage just fine. I have faith in you.
Do robots have faith?
I do. I have faith that you won't screw it up again.
You know what? It's fine. Go ahead. I'll just build my cold fusion Lego set some other time.
It's PON certified.
But I'm not telling them about my idea for a thunderstorm toilet. I'm gonna keep that baby close to my chest.
You know, that just sounds wrong.
It's a good idea. A toilet capable of turning any toxic human waste into, well, it turns into petroleum jelly.
Why petroleum jelly, sir?
You know what? I'm not sure. I don't think it's calibrated correctly.
Enough is enough. The world is at a breaking point. Catastrophic climate change, biosphere collapse, and a global energy crisis have been met with apathy, denial, and despair. The phrase unidentified flying object is a deliberately obfuscating term. What it really is an alternative energy and propulsion device. This is the real reason for the secrecy. These technologies, if they were disclosed, would end fossil fuels, pollution, and poverty overnight, and usher in a new era of abundance, freedom, and peace. Instead, they have been kept secret for over 100 years.
The more powerful the agency, the more powerful the group, the more powerful the cartel, the more they will resort not only to legal means, but to extra legal means to suppress their competition.
I said pretty early on, the problem is suppression. It wasn't really how do I make a free energy machine. It's how do I not get suppressed? Because what's the point?
Microscopic ball lightnings that when they discharge are tapping into that 0-point energy field and creating the motive force.
Boom! That's why the concussion from the thunderclap is so huge. There's this huge amount of energy that's actually sourced from the vacuum energy. All the dots connected. This is what's happening, right? So we need to make the thunderclap engine.
Imagine a future where clean, sustainable energy is not just a dream, but a reality. Discover the countless untold stories of free energy devices and the relentless battle against those who seek to suppress them for their own gain.
Black shelving. So someone comes along, they offer you $20 million for your device, it's a corporation, they put it on a shelf. Boom.
This power is something I have given my life for you the people.
Uncover the shocking tactics used by energy industries to control the narrative and maintain their grip on power.
You don't interfere with the big, powerful people. You don't put them out of business. They still have those 50-year leases on the lines and all the power transformers.
The Environmental Protection Agency is a bit of a dictatorial police agency.
A shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself.
This is real, usable power. It's stable. It is not transient. It is not noise. Behind the lamps, that little box is putting out all of that power, well over 500 watts, and yet it is receiving less than 1/3 of a milliwatt of input power. The rest of that power is coming out of the surging energy of the vacuum, and this little box that you see right here, solid state, no moving parts, is the vacuum triode that's doing this very practical and historical work.
But indeed, it put out more energy than it took in.
He was shot at once with a silenced rifle from about 300 yards. It reads like a James Bond movie, but it's real.
There are men here that said they're FBI, and they got black vans, and they're taking all this equipment. What should I do?
It's called capture, where they try to rationalize away this problem and everything's fine.
From manipulation of patent authorities to infiltration of government agencies, the truth is stranger than fiction. But amidst the darkness, a glimmer of hope emerges in the form of renegade scientists and inventors who refuse to be silenced.
There is absolutely no question that T. Henry Morey had a system that produced about 50 kilowatts out of a 55-pound box.
In the shadows of capitalism's dark secrets, join us on a thrilling new show. Get ready to be inspired, enraged, and empowered as we delve into the Benefactor's Guide to Free Energy Devices.
Only on Beneficence TV.
Alright, welcome, and welcome back to the Benefactor's Guide to Free Energy Devices. I'm your host, the Benefactor, and today we're gonna now take a deep dive into the behavior of forward and back EMF within our Joule Thief modification, or our Joule Thief variant, the Lightning Thief you see behind me. These small experiments aren't just trivial. Ladies and gentlemen, quite the contrary. They are windows into phenomenon that Nikola Tesla, Tom Bearden, and John Bedini have explored for decades. Many engineers see electromotive force as a simple one-way street, one-way current. The mathematic groups back and forward EMF as the same, but we know better. So did people like Lieutenant Colonel Tom Bearden. Bearden emphasized the role of displacement currents, energy that exists in the space around the conductors, not just in the wires themselves. Understanding these hidden currents is the key to unlocking energy that would otherwise dissipate, Bearden emphasizes. He describes displacement current caused by the electromotive force to be massless and not subject to entropy. This is very important. Shifting focus to our own system, we've been tracking how energy moves through bifilar coils with a potentiometer controlling the base, specifically the Rodin coil variant, the ABHA coil. And we are only using the negative output rail directly connected to the battery as a return path, not the negative input to the circuit. This seemingly simple setup demonstrates the complexity Bearden spoke about. Energy doesn't always flow along the obvious path. Instead, the system reveals subtle hidden flows that, if captured, can enhance net efficiency. Electrons have been spinning for billions of years, right? And they've shown no sign of slowing down. Thus, if we can model our system to mimic this behavior, we can theoretically extract all the energy we would ever need from the empty space in this room. Now, in the Joule Thief variant you see behind me, the Lightning Thief, the forward EMF originates at the negative terminal. Remember, the electron flow you can imagine as flowing from negative to positive, contrary to the conventional flow we use in designing these circuit systems. where we trace it from positive to negative. Remember, a lot of the components, or basically all the components, we have to connect the anode and then the cathode, right? The anode goes to the positive and the cathode goes to the negative, but we're designing our circuits to look at the anode, then the cathode. We need to look at it the other way. So intuitively, one might expect, you know, this energy to return the same negative terminal, right? I'm sorry. Intuitively, one might expect that forward EMF to return to the same, or to the same opposing terminal, the positive terminal, completing a conventional circuit from negative to positive. That's the actual flow. But in practice, it doesn't, right? Negative terminal in the system is effectively high impedance for the forward pulse, at least in our system. It can't easily accept the energy, so the pulse naturally seeks the path of least resistance through the load. The forward EMF seeks the path of least resistance through the load, even though it has no clear path returning to the battery. This is why our light continues to glow, in my theory, even when the battery seems weak, like at 8 volts. I've had this thing dissipate to 8 volts on a 12-volt battery, and it's still shining. It's not as bright, but it's still pretty damn close. Even though the battery is like basically holding on by a thread. Nothing will power up. No device that requires a 12-volt battery will power up if that 12-volt battery is below, say, 11.5 volts, or sometimes even below 11, but that's very rare. So, going back to Bearden, Tom Bearden described this energy, or energy flow in your circuit design as choosing paths through the surrounding vacuum, right, or the aether. While most engineers focus on energy traveling through the wires, Bearden reminds us that these pulses interact with the actual environment, and the currents we see in the load are often only part of the total energy picture. In practical terms, what we see lighting the load here is only the forward EMF, the forward electromotive force coming from the battery. The back pulse coming from the coil, which carries extra energy from the vacuum, needs careful handling separately from the forward. So let's talk about the back EMF, the backward electromotive force coming from the coil, and its how it relates to energy recovery, specifically in our system, the lightning thief. So backward EMF, the spike generated when a coil's electromagnetic field collapses suddenly, can be dangerous if uncontrolled. You know, it blows capacitors if it's not handled correctly in some systems. High voltage pulses can damage batteries or dissipate uselessly. The rodent coil and jewel thief variant, we've noticed with those that the back EMF wants to return to the battery. I think because it just has a greater potential, right? The positive forward EMF flows towards the load, but the back pulse seeks a way back and can partially reflect through the might be able to partially reflect through the emitter or collector in ways the battery isn't designed to handle. But specifically, it's not supposed to go back through the emitter. The path of least resistance is through the load and then nowhere for the forward current. Basically, it's dissipating in the load, but it's only 10 volts. Well, the back EMF has a direct path back to the negative terminal of the battery. So here's where we can actually apply Bearden's ideas and think about our system in ways that Bearden described. And he emphasized that energy in the vacuum can be redirected if proper pathways exist. Following John Bedini's work with pulse coil systems, we can create a controlled path back for this back EMF that the battery actually accepts. By arranging a resistor, capacitor, and diode network between the negative output rail of our system and the battery's negative rail, we might just be able to provide a safe route, a safe, clean route for that back EMF to be absorbed by the battery even further. The resistor limits the rush of the pulse. In this case, this addition that we're talking about, the resistor, cap, and diode combination between the negative output rail and the battery. The resistor limits the rush of the pulse, while the capacitor temporarily stores it and smooths it out by slightly altering the frequency. The diode allows only backward EMF to return to the battery while blocking any unwanted leftover forward EMF that might potentially be hanging on. Maybe that's the way we're closing the loop conventionally and why the system starts up at all. Because again, if there's no direct path for the forward current to go to back to the source, how is it starting the circuit? And that was a big question I had for a while, and there's a couple of theories, but so essentially, this is a low-tech displacement current capture system, or what we call a back EMF capture system. The system lets us reclaim some of the energy that would otherwise just be grounded out or dissipated in other conventional systems, the back EMF. But why does this align with Bearden and Bedini? Well, what we're doing is not guesswork, right? It directly reflects both Bearden and Bedini's teachings. Bearden constantly highlighted that energy exists in forms invisible to standard meters. Displacement currents in the vacuum, energy in the field itself, not just in the wires. And this kind of makes sense. You know, he says standard meters aren't actually made to measure this kind of thing, which makes sense why we're seeing all this weird stuff with our meters. That doesn't make sense, but now it does. Right? The chaos forms some kind of coherent vision of what's going on. So Bedini's pulse motor systems and battery charging experiments kind of exploited these hidden currents. By creating sharp controlled pulses he called H-waves, you could reclaim some of that energy that conventional circuits lost as heat. Or in other ways, you know, specifically you can lose it as heat. It could be ground out. It could be used in other different ways, but basically underutilized or not utilized at all. Our setup mirrors these configurations that these gentlemen were talking about by allowing this deliberate timing between the forward and the back EMF. I like to call synthetic AC, or specifically a kind of synthetic AC that we classify as a resonant pulsed waveform. So deliberate timing, the forward and back pulses, allow them to interact, and then you separate that interaction with the diode at the load, which then redirects that forward, and then we shape the backward as it returns to the battery. So moreover, our experimental observation with our observations with the system, we see forward EMF lighting the load, right? We register it on the oscope. It's only 10 volts, but it's lighting it about 10% brightness for a 40-watt load. So the system functions as a hybrid of conventional conduction and vacuum-coupled displacement by carefully managing the pulse path. And we see measurable efficiency gains in our system, specifically when we disconnect the input negative, which should be going to the battery and allowing the forward current to return to source, and just connecting the output negative rail, the emitter, directly to the negative terminal of the battery. Our waveforms show that we are indeed capturing part of the energy normally lost in the environment, supporting Bearden's claim that the vacuum itself can supply usable power if the system is configured correctly. Now, we registered only 10 positive volts on the output, but a negative 168 volts on the output as well. Now, this negative is going right back into the terminal of the battery. And we noticed an observable battery decay rate slowing, meaning the battery's decay rate slowed when using this configuration, giving us evidence to support this theory that some of that energy, maybe not a lot of it, but at least some of it, is being absorbed by the battery, slightly preserving the dipole, allowing the system to last 12.2 watt hours for over 15 hours, whereas a conventional inverter running at about 74% efficiency would last about 3.5 hours off of the same chunk of energy from the same battery. So for experimenters, this has profound implications. If you're following my do-it-yourself guide, this can open up worlds of possibilities for your experimentation with these coils. By understanding the hidden pathways of electromotive forces, we can design our circuits to recover energy most engineers just simply ignore. Even with small, simple components and a simple bifilar coil, not even a Rodin coil. Potentiometers, resistors, capacitors, and diodes. Simple components that we can configure to demonstrate these principles that Tesla, Bearden, and Bedini all described decades ago. So the next steps in our research include more detailed waveform analysis in our attempts to finally quantify exactly how much energy is reclaimed or captured in our system. The experiment with different capacitors and resistor values will see more optimization in returning that energy to the negative terminal. So once we, adjust those values and tune in to smooth out that return, I believe we can yield even further efficiency from the system. Additionally, we want to explore whether combining this approach with the open circuit method that we have not figured out how to run yet with this PCB could further multiply output, which in my opinion, I do believe it would. Once we finally crack the open circuit method, we will, in my opinion, be able to exponentially increase all this efficiency, potentially revealing effects Bearden only theorized, right? We're going farther than Bearden and Bedini in this case. Remember, we're still using the closed circuit method, though, so there are limitations. Specifically, there might be limitations in how much we can preserve the dipole. We might not be able to fully close the loop and just have it run, not indefinitely, but near indefinitely until something runs out, or breaks. But you get the idea. So in summary, our lightning thief and Rodin coil experiments are not only consistent with Tom Bearden and Bedini's theories and explanations, they actively advance their research, which is pretty cool. Forward EMF lights the load. Back EMF can be safely returned to the battery while the system is in use, which is something that Bedini himself didn't even figure out how to use or utilize in a system, or if he did, he didn't, I don't have access to those videos, or I've never seen them. Maybe he figured it out. He did have access to the Rodin coil, but the original winding pattern, not the ABHA configuration winding pattern that I'm using. So the difference there is actually significant. The original pattern is useful for pickup, I believe, while this pattern is useful for the actual generation. Now, ideally, we would want like a nested design of one of these inside another one of these with the original Rodin coil winding pattern, the one that you see wrapped just kind of helically around a donut with specific spacing. Ideally, we would want one of those wrapped around this coil as a pickup. But, Randy Powell, who was working with Marco Rodin, actually discovered hidden patterns, hidden sequences that could be applied using stereographic projection to the donut, the torus shape. And he configured and made this configuration from that theory and that revelation from those hidden patterns that Marco didn't see. And they had a falling out. So there was some drama there. I don't know what happened exactly, but you can only infer. Anyways, these two patterns are different, but they're intricately related to one another, and they should be ideally combined in a perfect system. But they have to be differentiated from one another. So when Bedini was working with the rodent coil, I think he was working with the pickup coil winding pattern, or the winding pattern that was just wrapped helically around the donut with spacing. I don't think he was working with the Abha coil. I'm not positive, but I don't think he had access to it or was working with it. If he did, he would have seen some of these effects right away, honestly, because I think that was the missing piece of the puzzle regarding how to return this energy safely back to the battery without having to really alter it that much. In a traditional coil, it's just going to slam back into the battery. But this kind of just is in full resonant mode. It's kind of like a singularity, right? I described it as a singularity, a single event. And you adjust one thing and the whole kind of system adjusts and either destabilizes or restabilizes. And like very small adjustments can throw the whole system off. But at the same time, you can apparently very easily return that negative current back into the battery's negative terminal without the system needing to stop and accept it. And slowly, it's actually doing it while it's running. So I think the geometry of the coil was the missing piece that Bedini didn't have access to. Not that he wouldn't have seen it. He definitely would have, especially if he experimented with these coils. But yeah, this is very exciting because we're taking it a little bit further and showing people exactly how to replicate this, which, it's not that complicated. At the end of the day, the secrets of the universe, if they were ever going to be known by mankind, they weren't going to be very complex, so like a very small group of people could only understand it, right? The secrets of the universe are going to be simple in nature. They're going to be simple in nature to the point where you're going to slap yourself in the head and say, why didn't I see it? But we are going to... Oh, I put Davey Oneness's channel in the chat if anybody wants to have access to his plethora of videos in this realm of fringe science. But we're going to play one of the videos he recently uploaded, a very rare find that I'd never seen before. But this is the video that I kind of linked some of my theories with the system with Tom Bearden's theories regarding his dual circuit. So we're going to play that while I set up the system, and we're going to do the magnetic wattman reduction test with the 12-volt battery. Only the 12-volt battery is fully charged this time. I'm not going to have the lab cam on it the whole time, but I will take the cam, the mobile cam, and give you guys a close-up of the voltage of the battery while it's at rest. It's been resting for like a day already, so it's at resting potential, or it's at its rest equilibrium state, so it's not going to adjust any, and it's at like 12.9 or 12.97 volts, which is great. We want it as high as possible because we want to try to get as much energy into that sphere to maintain that full synchronization. And once we get that synchronization, it's a lot easier to put energy back into the system, apparently. So that's going to be really exciting. We're going to do that in a few minutes while we watch this lecture or listen to this lecture by Tom Bearden, which really relates to all of this quite shockingly, to my surprise, relates to it quite a bit. So we're going to run that test and see what happens. Last time, remember, the voltage didn't just, because we run this test on the wall and with a power supply, it reduces the input requirement on the wattman meter, the power needing to power the whole system, the power supply, the stereo amp board, all that. 33 watts a reduction. So we're putting in 40, 50 watts into the system, and it's spinning the sphere up, and it's literally the sphere is spinning and reducing the power input requirement to about 14 watts. So that's like 33 watts is significant. That has to be able to be used somehow. If we can get that system to work on the 12-volt battery, I'm guessing it'll either A, last a hell of a lot longer than it normally would, or B, just not stop until something breaks. So we're not going to run it for too long. I'm going to run it long enough to confirm the results of the first test. And we'll maybe a little bit longer just to see if it'll get closer to resting voltage. But either way, that's going to be exciting to see. And even further, if that doesn't fully work and the battery starts to drain at some point, we can charge it up even further with the Bedini SSG, because the Bedini SSG will charge with negative energy, and the battery, if it's fully charged with negative energy, usually ends up being around 13.2 volts stably. So that's a lot of extra potential that we can put into that sphere to maybe get it to go faster frequency-wise, because we're limited frequency-wise by the power input. Remember, the power supply, we were putting in around 18 volts into the stereo amp board. With the 12-volt battery, we're only putting in about 12 volts. We're not stepping up anything in this configuration. All right, again, I want to thank Davey Oneness for uploading this video. It really did wonderful things for, you know, kind of putting things in perspective regarding studying this system and where we go from here, how to move forward. A Davey Oneness production. Remember, if you love these types of videos, please go over to Davey's page, his channel on YouTube, and subscribe. He's got so many of these amazing videos, lectures, and just rare archived footage of, you know, these scientists in the fringe communities, like Tom Bearden, John Bedini, and others like them. He's got so much information there to get access to, which I think is honestly a vital resource for any researcher trying to do what we're trying to do with these systems in regarding, you know, alternative energy and propulsion.
Efficiency. Proceedings of the International Symposium on New Energy, Denver, Colorado, USA, May 12th to 15th, 1994. Over unity, electrical power efficiency using energy shuttling between two circuits by T.E. Bearden, M.S. Abstract. To enable an electrical power source to power a load with over unity efficiency, a two-circuit, two-cycle energy shuttle methodology is utilized. In the first cycle, a capacitor collector is charged from the source without entropy and without source depletion by use of a stair-step ramp-up application of the source voltage, utilizing several hundred small rectangular steps. In cycle 2, the charged capacitor is disconnected from the source and shuttled to a separate load circuit and discharges through the load to power it. Nearly free power is thus obtained in the load without appreciable depletion of the primary source except to power the switching and miscellaneous losses. The two-cycle energy shuttle process is iterated, providing a heat pump-like operation and permissible over-unity operational efficiency. The excess energy is extracted directly from the vacuum via the Stone/Whittaker/ Ziolkowski bidirectional EM wave flow exchange between the vacuum and the bipolar separation of charges in the source. The source is utilized primarily as a receiving antenna for this vacuum to source free EM wave exchange, which constitutes the potential gradient between the source's terminals. Some practical problems with the circuitry are briefly discussed, including internal movement of capacitor plates and dielectric, nonlinear optical functioning of solid-state switching components at ELF frequencies, and lack of any known instrument to differentiate between displacement current d phi chi over dt and normal current I equals dq over dt. Introduction. The present paper is essentially an update to The Final Secret of Free Energy, published in the Proceedings for the First International Symposium on New Energy in 1993. It is assumed that the reader is familiar with the content of that paper. My associates and I have filed our first patent application on two electrical over-unity processes and devices, one similar to what is outlined in The Final Secret of Free Energy, and an additional variation utilizing collectors that are standard step-charge capacitors rather than degenerate semiconductor materials. Figure 1. Extracting and utilizing free electrical energy from the vacuum via the internal wave energy flow exchange hidden inside the potential gradient across the source's terminals. Figure 2. Type circuit for single pulse charging of a degenerate semiconductor collector without appreciable work, and separate discharge of the collected energy in the load without substantial depletion of the primary source. Circuit design by Steve Patrick. Use of a degenerate semiconductor collector. In the first paper, we utilized a degenerate semiconductor material for the collector, such that the material possessed an extended electron gas relaxation time, sufficient to allow electrostatic potentialization of the electrons in the collector material and switching of the electrostatically charged collector separately across the load prior to relaxation. Subsequently, electron gas collectors trapped electrons with their excess energy to be discharged separately through the load. Figure 1 shows the schema used for the charging/collection and switching/discharging cycles. Figure 2 shows the typical arrangement we have used in many of our experiments on this approach. For the degenerative semiconductor material, an alloy of 2% iron and 98% aluminum has been uncovered that will provide the proper extended relaxation time. However, because of different melt temperatures and other phenomena, the alloy is very difficult to manufacture. Only 1 or 2 potential manufacturers will even attempt it, and then only if precise quantities are purchased. Consequently, this solution is not practical at this stage of research and development. Presently, we are continuing our search for more practical degenerate semiconductor material and are confident that a more suitable material will eventually be found. Present status. Meanwhile, we have sharply focused our present work upon the known fact that a capacitor can be specially charged essentially by utilizing voltage with little or no electron current, i.e., the well-known simple formula for the energy in a charged capacitor is simply 1/2 CV squared. For a given ideal capacitor, C is fixed, and therefore its charge up with energy depends only upon impressing a potential gradient across it. The fact that a capacitor can be charged in this manner without work and without entropy is already proven in the literature. However, real capacitors have also proven to exhibit additional operational phenomena quite separate from capacitance. And these extraneous phenomena normally render over-unity operation very difficult or impossible. Nonetheless, both the theory and the experimental proof already exist that a capacitor can collect energy from a source without work. Given that such free energy collection charging can be accomplished on a somewhat larger scale than with our energy shuttling and switching approach, it rigorously follows that over-unity electrical power operation is 1, permissible, and 2, practical. In this paper, we present our approach to step charging of capacitors and detail some of the unconventional circuit phenomena that result. We have identified 3 problems areas that must be solved before practical scaled-up over-unity power systems using capacitor collectors can be developed. However, each of the solutions is a doable project, and so C-Tech effort is vigorously focused upon resolving these 3 problems while we continue to research additional candidate materials for the degenerate semiconductor collector. Figure 3, extracting and utilizing free electrical energy from the vacuum via the internal wave energy flow exchange hidden inside the potential gradient across the source's terminals. Stair-step charging capacitor. Figure 4, type circuit for stair-step ramp-up charging of a rigid capacitor collector without appreciable work, and separate discharge of the collected energy in the load without substantial depletion of the primary source. Circuit design by Steve Patrick. Charging a capacitor without entropy and without doing work. Several scientists have previously pointed out that real capacitors can be charged without appreciable entropy. In our recent patent application, this is one of the methods utilized, along with judicious and efficient switching, to increase the coefficient of performance of selected power sources to greater than unity. The Figure 1 schema has been adapted to add multiple step charging of a capacitor, as shown in Figure 3. In this realization of the invention, a stair-step ramp charging of a capacitor is performed.
So we have everything just about ready to go. I'm going to put on my PPE, and we'll get the laptop over to the lab and put in, we'll start at we'll start at 5 hertz, maybe 6 hertz, something like that. And then we'll increase. I think last time we did the test, we did it at 75 hertz. So that's a good stopping point, even though we could probably go faster. What I'm going to do is put it to 75 hertz while we're running the test and verifying the original results. Once we verify those original results, I will try to increase it a little bit. It might desynchronize, and I might have to go back and respin the sphere. But yeah, we're all set up, or just about set up, and we're going to do the wattman reduction on a 12-volt battery, feeding energy back into the battery with the extra energy produced by spinning that neodymium sphere inside the core of the coil. Very exciting stuff. Very exciting. Remember, it's 33 watts. Holy macaroni. Oh, Lord. Good Lord. Good Lord. Did that just happen? Good Lord. Infinite Paradox Buddha just super chatted me in $500 and said, keep killing it, buddy. Oh, my God. You're my new best friend. I don't know what to say. That is the most generous thing I have ever experienced on this channel. Wow. During a live stream. Yeah, that's... Whew. That's wow. Infinite Paradox, I really appreciate your support. I can't put this into words how much this helps me out, specifically with what we're trying to do here. Wow, that's amazing. That is awesome. All right, well, we got a giant energy boost with some positive energy from the chat. With that, we're going to run this experiment and have a lot of fun doing it. Give me a second. I'm going to set up the collab cam so we can show you the resting voltage and all that stuff. Just got to set up the lab cam real quick for you guys. All right, there we go. All right, so you see our resting voltage is 12.91. I think it was 12.92. We did turn on the stereo amp briefly to verify, so it is going to stabilize a little bit, but that's basically what it was at, 12.92 volts. And that's everything off. Nothing is on. Just the resting voltage of the battery, fully charged. Then I'm going to show you the system when it's powered on with no frequency, powered on at 75 hertz with the frequency but no magnet. And then we're going to compare that to the magnet spinning. All right, so we're going to turn on the system now. We're at 12.91, 12.92 volts. We're going to turn on the system. Full gain. Little mini boards on. We went down 12.88, 12.89. So not that much, just a little bit. Remember, we're not using the board. We haven't put any frequency in the board, so it's not amplifying anything yet. It's not being used. That's just basically the energy going back without being used and the losses that we see in the system. All right, so check this out. I'll grab the laptop. All right, so we're putting in 75 hertz. We're turning that all the way up. Okay, good. So we hit the play button. And look, it goes down 12.76, and it's going down kind of fast. So let's turn it off. Let's let the system restabilize, reach equilibrium. Let the battery go back up. I'm gonna put on my equipment, my hard hat and all that. And we're gonna try it with the magnet in there. All right, so the system's off. We're all the way back up to 12.88 volts. Remember, this is around the area that the system will be just turned on. So we just turn on no frequency, and it should go down, I don't know, 20 or 30 millivolts, it looks like. Let's turn it on. Oh, dirt, I forgot the sphere. Nope, it desynchronized at 74, so let's roll it back. Sounds like it's struggling. Yeah, it's losing power. Interesting. Let's go back down and try to resynchronize it. Oh, wow. Turn that off. I'm going to try just one channel. Let's try that. So, oh, wow. Let's turn that off. We're going to try one channel. Oh, that's burnt. There we go. It's going back up again. See it go back up? But it's losing power. I can hear it. It's starting to desynchronize. Yep, it's going down. There's just not enough power. Still. There we go. I gotta push it right in the center. It's going up now, baby. Come on, baby. Yeah, 77. Damn, it just desynchronized. Ooh. $65 hertz. It's like desynchronizing anything higher than that, maybe. And it's going back up again. It's going back up. And it desynchronized. Yeah, there's just not enough power. But it is going up. It is fucking going up. Son of a bitch. That means the cost of running the system is negligible because the voltage is going up. All right, so we confirmed a couple of important things. Although the neodymium sphere still kept desynchronizing, I suspect it's just not enough power to bring it to the correct frequency for synchronization, meaning it can't get to the RPMs, can't speed up fast enough to synchronize with the field fully. But while it is temporarily synced with the field, you can see the charge noticeably go up. And as the charge is going up, the sphere is spinning, the magnet's spinning. Once the magnet desynchronizes, it starts to go down. Even when you hear the magnet start to catch, and just, it's still spinning, but it's like, sounds like it's just slowing down. You can definitely see the noticeable effect on the multimeter. So I think that tells us a couple of interesting things. While that sphere is spinning, number one, while that sphere is spinning, we've observed that the voltage on the battery doesn't go down, it goes up. Although we are still getting around the same stable voltage consumption, meaning at the 70, 75 hertz frequency input to the amp, it has to amplify that. It goes through the circuit and it uses energy off the battery. Without the magnet, went down to 12.77 volts. With the magnet spinning up, it went down to around the same, 12.76, 12.77, maybe a little bit more, but it did start going up while the sphere was spinning. So it wasn't actually going down and depleting like the system normally would be, and it was showing while we're putting the frequency in without the magnet spinning, while we're showing the system running without the frequency put in at all. We are seeing a drainage on the battery like we're supposed to be seeing. The battery is being depleted. The dipole is stabilizing. It's equalizing. The electrons are returning to source. But with the magnet spinning, we have observed that the faster we can get that magnet spinning, the faster we can get that voltage to go back up. And it doesn't go back down, it goes up. So this is extremely important. But it's not enough power to keep the system fully spinning. It desynchronizes, and you can hear it. It's trying to maintain that speed. Either the neodymium sphere is slightly too big for it, or it's not the correct placement. It needs to be deeper. I need to try to get a smaller glass and get it deeper into that tor. Or it's simply not enough input power. And I think that's our option C, the latter. I just simply believe we don't have enough voltage input to get that sphere to synchronize like it was with the power supply. So my guess is where we take this from here is, first, we want to try to test this with a charged, negatively charged battery, because we can keep the voltage above 13, right? We want 13.2, and we'll test the 13.2 volt battery on this system again to see if we can get it to remain stable. And if we can, that means it'll continue to climb instead of, just drain the battery. So if we can't do that, then we'll try to hook up two batteries together as a bank. And then we'll try it that way with, I don't know, hooking up two 12-volt batteries will give us 24 volts. So that should definitely do it. Although in that case, I don't want to blow the circuit. The circuit's only designed for 18 volts. We need to design some kind of thing, some kind of limiter. And I'm not sure if that's going to mess with the return or the battery effects that we see where it's climbing. So that's something to consider, because right now we don't have anything limiting the battery from putting power into the system. And these systems, from my experience, are very touchy, right? Small changes can affect them drastically. They're, the coil just puts everything in resonance mode pretty easily. So that's a concern. But other than that, we got really good results. We kind of confirmed that what we were seeing the other night in our tests was accurate. The battery was going back up and not going down. It was charging while it was running, basically. So if we can figure out a way to spin that sphere and maybe put some kind of vibrating metal plate in there, we can actually have a speaker that runs, for extended periods. With that, I'm going to end the stream. I might come back on with some video games later to chill out with you guys. I don't know. I really appreciate the super chat from Infinite Paradox, Buddha. That was really incredible. That's going to go a long ways to helping our research here. I'm going to definitely get some new equipment in the lab, and that's all thanks to you. So I appreciate you guys. We're going to end the stream, and I'll be back probably Friday for more experimentation and science right here on the Benefactor's Guide to Free Energy Devices, only on Beneficence TV.
And in the depths of shattered halls, I wandered all alone, casting whispers, blinding chains, demons of my own.
mirror.